Hi there, I'm Timothy Linsdau, a video producer and a Christian and someone who cares. Today, we have an alarming problem on the border again. The alarming problem on the border this time is kids dying. This little kid here, Felipe Gomez Alonso, what a cute little kid, dies in Border Patrol custody of some sickness of some kind. According to this report, they had taken him to the hospital, given him whatever they were going to give him, and father brought him back and the kid died. So, terrible thing. I know there was another one that passed away. There's, multiple reasons. I don't know if immigrants coming over are going to be medically screened. Probably not in the thousands that are coming all at once. So they're packed together and shelters and whatever, which makes it even more susceptible to transmitting diseases to each other. And besides, you're hauling, this kid is 8 years old. You remember being 8 years old? I mean, wow. Being yanked away from what little home he knew, apparently. Drug across 2,000 miles in Mexico. Being stopped at the border and pushed around. Not to attack the authorities, but an 8-year-old kid, his dad said, he came here for opportunity, like anybody. Somebody had told him, if you get here, you're going to get in, you're going to get taken care of from your poverty. But that's not how you gain asylum here. There are asylum rules in our law that do allow for asylum. They're usually based on some persecution by government, or only that. So gangs, poverty, even health do not count for asylum, from what I understand. So I think it's good not to be confused by what that's about. But every one of those cases take time to process. We have an order to our country. We have a language, borders, and a culture. Otherwise, do we have a country? And millions of people south of the border have immigrated to the United States, which is great. There's at least 1 million people a year that immigrate into the U.S. The U.S. needs it, as many Western countries, to keep growing. Our populations stop reproducing very well in affluent countries. The Western European countries, they're going backwards from that issue. The only thing that keeps them going is immigration. Japan, it's another one that needs immigration. The affluent countries, the populations dwindle, and your growth stops. You start going backwards. But anyway, this poor kid, he died in a New Mexico hospital, so this is a long ways from Tijuana, as you can see. Not everything is over here. The whole border is having these issues. Another Guatemalan child, a 7-year-old Jacqueline Call, died on December 8th, and both are under investigation to make sure that the Border Patrol and people in charge have done the right thing. Some years ago, I made a film on Otay Mountain. It sits right on the border here, and it was turned into a wilderness area. And I had an opportunity to work with Border Patrol, and I discovered that they have one of the best rescue arms, if you will, organizations within their organization to rescue people, because they rescue so many people in bad situations. They had to get good at it, and they're experienced at it. So, they're like most Americans. They care, they want to do the right thing, and they want to protect the country at the same time. So on that goes. his father said, we heard rumors that you could pass into the United States. And they said they could pass with children. And apparently that's what he thought. Now, I don't know what he was told, but it didn't seem very good. They asked the father who spread the rumors, who told them they could do this, and he either wouldn't answer or said he didn't know. And so there you go. On it goes. Misinformation, trying to make the most of what you got. I can only imagine, having grown up, born and raised in the U.S. There were times my folks were poor. We lived in tar paper shacks. You know, we've been down, probably not that down, but in America, I suppose it looks that way. Of course, right now we have partial shutdown of the government, which creates turmoil in the government. I suspect that the law enforcement agencies and Department of Defense aren't shut down because they're so critical to the protection in the United States. What those details are I'm just trusting that it's right. Trump administration's long argued smugglers capitalize on these vulnerable parents. And some of this comes from loopholes in our own law, such as anti-trafficking legislation from 2008, effectively prevents the immediate deportation of Central American children. And again, it's kind of like stagnating water. If you let it sit too long, these people are sitting long enough, they become vulnerable. As I've mentioned before, and that the alarming problem with having big groups in a country like Mexico that doesn't have the resources to help these people and to protect them. So on this mess goes. And these human trafficking people are the worst thing you can imagine. I mean, trafficking children, sex trafficking, and it's hard for me to even think about such a thing, but these people are wicked. Christ said the love of money is the root of all evil, man, and that's where it always comes back to. It comes back to people greedy, that alarming behavior for the dollar. Just incredible. And so on and on it goes. His father thought he could take advantage of the opportunity. I'm sure he was probably down to what it was, like $6 a day. Probably living in a dirt floor shack, trying to just survive. But what would have been better for his son? Man, I had an opportunity to move myself and my family to San Diego in 1981. But I had education in my field of endeavor and experience. We had money in the bank. We didn't move carelessly. God provided for us, and we've had a good life here. But we didn't move with a few dollars in our pockets and away from family and help. And that's one thing this article says, is they left family behind. It working together, at least they can survive and help each other. He apparently got sick after he'd been moved from El Paso, Texas to Alamogordo, New Mexico because of overcrowding. Again, see those alarming numbers overwhelm even the U.S. system. Unfortunately, we can move people around and spread them around. We have a long border with Mexico. So there's a lot of ways along there that they're taking care of people. Just checking my notes back there. So there's a lot of alarming problems going on. I mean, just it's a shame here. Kid was diagnosed with a cold and a fever, prescribed antibiotics, and ibuprofen. Wasn't enough. Who knows? I assume they will understand what really caused the death of this kid. So those people down there drowning in debt, or I can only imagine. And they see this land of gold up north that they can get to. They can get here, but it doesn't mean they're going to get in here and be able to stay here. Hopefully, the President of Mexico and U.S. can get together, and it sounds like they're getting together on ideas, trying to solve these problems and help these small countries out. How difficult all that mess is, I don't know, but they should not be coming up here in those numbers. More people will die, more people will be hurt, and it'll cost Mexico and the U.S. more money. It's a very difficult time in that area. So the alarming problem that we have from this immigration down south is tough. But I know Americans care and want to do the right thing, but still keep control, still have a country. So we do what we can. So like and comment on my video, subscribe on my channel, and thank you very much. Bye now.